I said 5 in the morning, I wake up to 5 for my yearning. Fear in my mind is a warning. Pray to the one you're relying. I've been wandering all day. I tried to be fine, but I can't be. The noise in my mind wouldn't leave me. I tried to get by, but I'm burning. I'm behind, my mind it runs. All these thoughts have troubled me. Fighting to give up my pain. Fighting to be on my lane. My mind running to the other side. When it's time to leave my life, then it tries to take me out. Tell you what I need. Right, yeah. I really need time now. I need a free mind now. I really need my now. I need to free my mind now. I really need time now. I need a free mind now. I really need mine now, yeah. This is the peace that you cannot buy. Send me a love that you cannot mix. One is the joy that you cannot waste, and the other one price that you cannot fix. This is the peace that you cannot buy. Finding a way where you cannot see. Man with this system you cannot pray. I need to find relief. But behind my mind it runs. All these thoughts are trouble me. Finding to give up my babe. Finding to be on my lane. My mind running to the other side. When it's time to leave my life, then it tries to take me out. Tell you what I need. Right, yeah. I really need my now. I need a free mind now. I really need time now. I need to free my mind now. I really need time now. I need a free mind now. I really need time now. Oh, yeah. Just set me free, freer than the open mind, farther than the eyes can handle, freer than the ocean now. Yeah, yeah. So set me free. Now I need to find relief. Set me to the open sky. Now I need to free my mind. Yeah. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. Hey, oh no. I might be falling deep. 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 Tell me now what you need. I've been going to God when I'm all in my mind. I might be falling deep.
You need to get if he don't wanna love you the right way. He ain't gonna. It ain't where he's at. It's where he wanna be. Yeah.
I said 5 in the morning, I wake up to 5 for my yearning. Fear in my mind is a warning. Pray to the one you're relying. I've been wandering all day. I tried to be fine, but I can't be. The noise in my mind wouldn't leave me. I tried to get by, but I'm burning. I'm behind, my mind it runs. All these thoughts have troubled me. Fighting to give up my pain. Fighting to be on my lane. My mind running to the other side. When it's time to leave my life, then it tries to take me out. Tell you what I need. Right, yeah. I really need time now. I need a free mind now. I really need mine now. I need to free my mind now. I really need time now. I need a free mind now. I really need mine now, yeah. This is the peace that you cannot buy. Send me a love that you cannot mix. One is the joy that you cannot waste, and the other one price that you cannot fix. This is the peace that you cannot buy. Finding a way where you cannot see. Man with this system you cannot pray. I need to find relief. But behind my mind it runs. All these thoughts are trouble me. Finding to give up my babe. Finding to be on my lane. My mind running to the other side. When it's time to leave my life, then it tries to take me out. Tell you what I need. Right, yeah. I really need I need to free my mind out. I really need y'all now. I need to free my mind out. I really need y'all now. Oh, yeah. Just set me free, freer than the open mind, farther than the eyes can handle, freer than the ocean now.
Let's go. Okay, hey everyone, welcome back to the second episode of Judo versus Kendo. We have a very special guest, two very special guests today. First, Order of Canada, needs no further explanation, Louis Vachon, great to have you.
Thank you.
Also, not Order of Canada, but very good friend of ours, Pierre-Philippe Saint-Marie.
Hi guys.
And you guys are probably wondering why these two people are here, because believe it or not, me and Louis started Kendo together. And Pierre was a little bit ahead of us. But normally the show is talking about how different athletes in Judo and Kendo have helped our careers and things like that. But today we're going to talk about how Kendo helped these two gentlemen, and we'll start with that. So, Louis, how's it going? They're looking
good. I'm doing good. I was told to get close to the mic.
That's right. So last episode we were too far from the mic. So we spent the first half of the episode filming where no one can hear us. Yeah. So let's try to get a little bit closer to the mic. So this is fun because now we can finally talk about with everyone what we usually discuss during our famous lunches. So I guess the first thing on the list, we're going to break this down into three main topics. First is, Kendo through time. So how Kendo helped us throughout our careers and networking and
our life.
Life in general.
Right.
The second will be biohacking. So myself as a master's degree in kinesiology from McGill. Thank you, McGill, for all your gracious education. We have our Pierre here is going to get into that, how he was able to reverse engineer his physiology to lose, 70?
No. 50 pounds. 60 pounds. 50, 60.
Sorry, somewhere.
Who's counting, right? Who's counting?
The more the better. Except if around Joe Louis.
And Louis doesn't know what you're talking about.
Okay. Yeah. So
does that hurt?
Well, this one, the third, it does hurt actually. It leaves a mark.
Yes.
So the third one will be actually how we can compare Budo and finance, because as you know, Kendo is martial art, Budo. So how can we compare that to the turbulent occurrences in the finance world, especially
Because we're both in finance.
I hope so, because especially these days, there's a lot of commotion, and people really need a little bit of guidance in terms of, where they should put their next dollar. But we won't get into
Financial advice on Kendo.
This is not financial advice, but let yourself be entertained by this program instead. So who would like to start? I mean, we're talking about Kendo through time here. Louis, would you like to
Let's start with Pierre-Philippe, because one reason I got into Kendo was I saw we worked together at National Banks.
Yeah.
And I saw Pierre-Philippe one day walking in with his bogu, and I said, what's that all about? And he told me what it was, and I said, hey, that sounds pretty cool. And from there, I say, hey, why don't you put me in touch, and maybe I want to try it out. So let's start with him, because the story.
All right.
starts
So
with
here we
Pierre-Philippe.
go. Here. Yeah.
So I started in 1987. I was doing karate kempo, which was half contact. And I guess the sensei thought I was maybe a bit too much full contact. And he told me, he said one day, look, I think you should try Kendo. This is more for you than karate. So I joined the Quebec Kendo Club in July 1987, and I practiced with Awaga Sensei for 4 years before I left for Portugal. That was my first break.
Because you were also a basketball player.
That's right. Yeah, I started in 1988 playing basketball, and by 1990 I was captain of my team, and then I went and played abroad for a year.
So Louis, did you do any other sports before Kendo?
I did rugby in college. Yeah,
I was rugby player.
Yeah, NCAA Division III in the U.S. Yeah, Bates College. So that's what I was.
I forgot that part actually. That's where you got your stockiness, because I remember when I hadn't we reconnected for lunch once. You just gave me a little shove with the shoulder. I was like, bam! I felt like I got hit by like a truck or something. So
Yeah, that's what I did in college. Yeah.
For sure, Kendo, Kendo and competitiveness goes well together.
Yeah.
Absolutely, it's a great martial art for going through your aggressiveness.
I think it's definitely challenged your aggressiveness in some sense. You said, Louis, once that it helped you I would say maintain calmness in a time in your career.
Yeah,
When-
I think so. So I saw Pierre-Philippe on the training floor at National Bank here in Montreal with his equipment. I said, "What is that all about?" And he said, "Oh, I do Kendo. It's Japanese fencing." Da da da. And at the same time, I was playing a lot of a video game called Shogun Total War.
What?
Oh yeah, I love that game. I still do.
I did not know. What?
And a great game that came out in 2000, I think, by Creative Assembly. And so I was really interested in that period of time of Japanese history. It's also, if you study strategy, it's also a fascinating time
Totally
to
agree.
study strategy.
Yeah.
So, so I got the contact from Pierre-Philippe, and I showed up one day and started doing the routines, and I was taught by Ono Sensei. It was one of you and I were among the last.
We started together.
I think you started a week or two before me.
Yes.
And something like that. And then I got the basics, and I said, "Hey, let's try that." And then I got into it. I got my bogu, and because at first I was using other people's very smelly.
Well, that equipment is.
Yeah.
Back in the days, those were rare.
Like,
Very rare. You gotta.
Well, that gear was actually what they wore in the internment camps.
Yeah.
Ono Sensei had some gear that was actually from the internment camps.
Well, my gear came from. It was a hand-me-down from somebody who stopped in 1985 or 1986, but I still have it.
Yeah. So it took me a while to get my own, so get my own. But finally, I started practicing regularly, like you should do. If you're
What year
dealing
was
with-
that? 97, 98?
No. That was 2000, 2001.
Okay, I wasn't a current at that point.
And like any contact sport that you do, or combat sport, martial arts, you need to be in the zone, right? You need to train regularly. So so I started doing it quite regularly, twice a week at least. And yes, it did help me challenge my excess energy in a positive way.
Yeah.
Dealing with the stress at work, and at that time I had a lot of responsibilities at the office. I had a young family, and for me it was my 4 hours to myself where I could hang out with other people that were not people at work, and do a lot of physical exercise, and just and at the same time learning a new skill, a new trade, a new culture, and it was great. Really enjoyed it.
Did you feel that because the stress you guys had on the training floor back then, did you feel that it brought you some kind of innate calmness when you walk into that room? Because if you do Kendo, you know that you're screaming at the top of your lungs, you're wailing at someone with a shinai. So is that kind of channeling of war energy kind of give you some kind of calmness when you walk into the training floor?
Well, it helped us. I think both of us have,
Yeah.
sort of a aggressive personality. So I think it was good. As I said, yes, it did. For me, certainly it did, and I think it was extremely helpful. And I think it certainly helped me professionally and personally.
Pierre, you said that you looked at more of the theoretical victory versus the practical victory. That in Kendo, you're trying to prove to yourself that you won, not necessarily to your opponent that you won.
Now,
Is that what you mean?
I mean, Kendo went through an evolution for me, for sure, that there were many years for which winning practically, winning gear, hardware was important.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I would say nowadays, it has a different meaning. I would say nowadays much more than, let's say, I did the 1987 to 1991, then 1997 to 2007.
Right.
And during that period, winning hardware, winning competition was very important. Now, when I started back in 2018, 19, I'd say 19 more than 18, I had a different reason for starting back, and now it's a lot more focused on the victories that I can win against myself than anything else.
Yeah. So specifically, being healthy and maintaining your weight.
Fast, being, oh, I mean, there is no doubt in my mind that when I stepped in a fight, I'm there to win. But the win is not necessarily getting a medal out of it. It's making sure that I'm fast, making sure that I'm a tough opponent, that I'm a worthy opponent, you know?
You're trained physically.
Physically and mentally, and I'm there in the game, and I don't injure anybody. That's also a different focus than I had when I was in my, let's say, especially when my early days in my career. It was not about that at all. And then in I'd say, you know, during my competitive years, I wasn't really caring so much about the opponent, but now the opponent is becoming more important to me. Like I want to make sure that I'm a worthy opponent.
I see. So Louis, coming from a rugby background, this is like very different kind of training. Like, did you feel that despite your rugby background, you could adapt, have a certain style that was competitive?
It was a big adjustment for me. The biggest, I've never done martial arts before. So, and as you know, people listening to us know that all martial arts are about the footwork and your balance, right? So, so I had to learn about this, and that was the biggest adjustment for me. Just keeping, you know, a center of gravity, you know, just underneath me, and move both feet at the same time. Now the other thing too, and you were there, you were with us.
Absolutely,
had a very physical type of kendo. So if
I will stop you there just for a second, because it wasn't exactly as physical as most people would, because you had a method to your physicality.
Well, I'm not sure it was.
You're
very kind. You're getting the prize for revisionist history.
All right. Revisionist history.
Oh, well, I think I did get a point.
All right.
He was also fighting against
We have countless stories of Louis just pulling stuff out of nowhere just to get the win, and then coach coming over and saying, "Okay, that was great. Now let's do some kendo."
Yes. So that was my first tournament. After my first win, I had 5 seconds of glory and happiness. And then Stan walked up and said, "Okay, great, you won. Now can we see some kendo?"
Those were good times. So okay, that's interesting because as you know now, I'm teaching a lot now, so I'm getting people from all different shapes, body sizes, ages, and things like that. So I always try to make the conversation about how they should see the movement pattern so that they can adapt it to their own bodies, versus having this cookie cutter mold that's jammed down people's throat. And I find that people fall off. In that sense.
Well, the KIPPON approach is, I've done 3 dojo now, and it's very different than what I've saw in traditional teaching, where it's very adapted to you. I don't know if you remember, Antoine, but when I started back, I was often injured. I was overweight. I was out of shape.
Yeah, I remember.
And you were.
How much did you weigh exactly?
230 pounds.
230.
I'm at 180 now.
Yeah.
But you took it step by step, and it was all about making sure that I wasn't injured and adapting the motions. I was doing suburis on one leg because I had torn my Achilles tendon.
Oh, yeah, I thought it was Andre Agassi.
Like Dennis, that was funny.
But so I try to adapt as much as possible to the individual, which when it comes to finance too, isn't this what we talked about last time in terms of periodicity, or what is
periodicity? The periodicity of
of your own investment horizon.
Yeah,
right? Because I look
of an
at
investment process. Is it monthly? Is it daily? Is it high frequency?
And this is the bridge I try to make, because I look at an athlete and I think, what do they want to see themselves as an athlete 5, 10, 15 years? And your desires as an athlete, especially even just as a Kendo player, will be different from other people's. So how do you get deep into the investment horizon of that person? But what are some parallels we can make in terms of training and finance? Because I always thought that my approach was using the interval training method. So short intermittent bursts, less continuous long. Continuous long would be doing 1 hour nonstop without any breaks, which is the old ways of how people used to train. Now people are more competitive. You know, they change around, they change their minds very quickly. So you need a more of kind of like a quick change of direction approach. And I always thought there is a like kind of congruency between that mindset and perhaps what we see in trading these days in terms of how people was it their periodicity in terms of their investments.
Periodicity.
What do you guys think?
Louis, go ahead first. You go first.
Well, where I use Kendo in a professional setting was what was helping for me, very helpful, was some strategy and some aspects of first of all, using somebody else's momentum. You know, against that person.
It's so key though.
It is, and you see a lot of that flows of money. I mean, you know, finance. One of the factors in finance is momentum.
Right.
So learning to go with that momentum or to fight that momentum is sometimes, you know, one of the critical aspects of being in finance. But fundamentally, going back to the big picture,
Yeah.
Kendo, finance, the same thing. If it's a passion, the more you put into it, the more you'll get out of it. Okay, and that's why that's the approach I took to my career in finance. You know, even though I gravitated to got promoted to very high levels in seniority and the organization, I kept working on my trade, knowledge. You know, I kept on reading and learning new stuff. Same thing in Kendo. The more you put into it, the more you get out of it.
It seems in your case though, your momentum just kept pushing you up and up and up. That it's almost like you had no choice but to deal with the pressure. Like you were the guy that like people were like looking to.
Yeah, I mean, at some point when you become CEO, and I was CEO for 15 years. Yeah, I mean, you're there's no one higher than you.
That's
That's
right.
it. And ultimately, all your stakeholders look to you, and you're ultimately responsible. That's it. The buck stops with you.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, but that occurred progressively. And as I said, you know, I was at the same time that I was doing Kendo, I was going up in ranks quite quickly. I was getting promoted very quickly at the bank. I had, you know, 3 different jobs in 18 months at the bank.
Holy smokes.
Okay, I went from running treasury to running capital markets to being the CEO of the bank. In fact, 4, then CEO of the bank over a 3-year period.
I remember that one.
So that was a lot of change, and that's also unfortunately not when I stopped, because I couldn't invest 4 or 5 hours a week at that time in between my family and
Well, there was a
work.
time period too. It was 2007. I mean, we were going through
financial
some.
crisis in 2008. It got even worse. So unfortunately, that's where I stopped.
Yeah.
But
I stopped
you know,
also that year.
Yeah, but
Well,
it continued. You know, it helped. You know, going through that period.
That's really interesting. Like,
You know,
there's
one
so
thing
many-
one parallel that I made Kendo with finance is it's always about the next point, and you can never panic. Like if you got into a bad trade, if you're in a bad position, or if you're in a match and you lost the first point, you got to erase it. And this is something that Kendo really taught me, to be able to
reset
focus on the moment, you know, and to really sit down and think at that moment in time what's going on.
Yeah.
Like you're going up for that second point, you know, that's it. Now the match is live. And you lose that point, you're out, you win it, there's another point.
And the other thing too, I enjoyed the most out of Kendo was the team competition.
Well,
Yeah.
that's so, I mean, so you talk about that because you know, there were 6 guys in the club, and there's 5 people on the team, and me and him are always competing for the last spot on the team.
That was so fun.
Yeah, but the team competition. Should I say the story, or do you want to?
We'll go ahead.
I mean, when we were Halifax champions, should we talk about that? Oh wait, Pierre, you weren't with us that time.
No, I was in
No.
Cleveland. I went to Cleveland in I won
Cleveland, that was
the Showdown division Cleveland.
So we had a
2002.
team.
When was that?
That was
2002?
2002.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
2002. It was in the fall, I believe.
Yeah.
So it was myself, Louis, Big Stan, Fam, and Paul Marco.
Yeah.
Right. And so we end up against the final against McGill.
Yeah.
And like our strategy was always because Louis has a very distinct style, that if you put him in the 5th position, most of the time he can like wear down the other opponent.
Attrape the J.CABB.
That's it.
Attrape the
Like
J.CABB.
that's it.
Playing defense.
That's right. But
That's what
now
it
you
was.
need that.
I
You know what I mean?
could sense people coming, so I could
Yeah.
I wasn't very good at attacking, but I could block very well.
So I remember I had lost my match it came down to it came down to Louis had to tie the match, and
Yeah.
then Stan had fought hard for one win, and then he just goes over to Louis. I won't say the full phrase, but he says, "Tie this bleeping match," and Louis just went into
Stan was such an inspiration. I love playing with
he
Stan.
went into performance mode, and then we had lobster at the casino.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, it was good stuff.
Yeah.
But those moments are really good. For the thing is, I was always the youngest one, so for me the biggest benefit was always the networking opportunities.
Mhm.
Like I was the young guy looking up, thinking, wow, okay, these guys are bank managers. These guys are in real
Stan was
estate.
also a trader.
Stan was a
Yeah.
trader,
I was a trader.
From the
Louis was a
beginning,
trader, I think, while we
yeah,
were going
running
up fast.
You
Yeah.
guys were all, I mean,
Yeah.
bird of the feather. I mean, it was all in one club.
Yeah.
So it was really interesting to see all that professional experience and where you could take that. So
Yeah.
I went into more so like the training and the sports science world because it fascinated me how to like talking about biohacking and stuff.
Yeah.
How you lost like 47 pounds and things like that. For me, it was more so performance, but also strategy. Like you said, like learning the strategies, because my ultimate goal was to be on the Canadian team. And everyone told me it was impossible. So I had to figure out this genius strategy, how to circumvent the ultimate, like being from the ultimate underdog position to win my spot on the team. Because I remember even you told me, Louis, one time, you told me, Antoine, you set the goal too high. And in 2 years, I'll never forget.
Oh, there you go.
I'll never forget. I'm telling you. Sorry. Now it's the age. Now it's the age.
I'm trying to interpret
Now it's the age.
I don't remember.
No, I'll never forget.
It has been a
Like,
few
well,
years, Louis.
I've been wrong many times, so I'm glad I've been wrong.
No, but you know what? It's because it is such a difficult thing to
Yeah,
understand
absolutely.
this martial art
Yeah.
that but it's interesting now because now where we're located, we are with a judo dojo.
Mhm.
So the cousin of George Larac, the hockey player, Ernst Larac, is a Olympic judo athlete.
Yeah.
So we sit down, we have some conversations. That's what this show is about. Our first show was with me and Ernst.
Yeah.
We're gonna have Ernst back on for sure. But the whole thing is that the judo aspect is completely different too. There are some similarities,
Yeah.
but there is like those differences which make it really interesting.
Well, anything you do at a high level is unique in some ways, you know. There's a common grounds, but for sure it's going to be unique. And that's the thing about Kendo that I love so much, the uniqueness of Kendo, the speed that it requires. That's what I crave. Like getting into a fight and you don't have a whole lot of time to think. You really need to be in the moment. And I've never seen this. I did Krav Maga.
It can't be as stressful as making a trade though. I mean,
Stressful. You know, when you're actually, I don't know about you. I think everyone is different, but when you're actually executing, when you're making the trade, this is not where the stress comes in. It's when you're looking at your portfolio and you're looking at the market. Actually, you know, most of my stress comes before I start trading. I get really anxious when you got big inflection points in markets.
Hang on, I'm gonna stop right there. That's the same thing before you go into a tournament.
Absolutely, for sure.
It's like you have that
Absolutely.
pre-game anxiety.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
That's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
So, anyways, please continue.
No, but I mean, that's the main thing. Like the stress is not the actual execution; is the decision of taking a stand and changing the course of your portfolio or changing the course of your decision process.
You said this in a way that it comes down to your tolerance to risk too. Right?
Yes. I mean, some people have very high tolerance to risk. I am not one of them. I've never really enjoyed taking risk. I do it because I'm good at it. This is something I can perform at. Unlike Kendo, which I truly enjoy doing, but risk taking is difficult. I mean, for me personally, it's difficult because I hate losing. I mean, I think that's part of the competitive aspect. You don't want to lose,
I think a lot of people share that sentiment.
And therefore, the room for error is small, and the internalization of risk is high. You take a trade, and then it's your trade, regardless of whose money it is.
So, like on a trade, like say like a drawdown of like 15 to 20% would be like the maximum you would tolerate.
Yeah.
Now you're getting all deep precise, but
Yes, absolutely. I mean, on the whole portfolio, absolutely. You
15,
can,
20%.
yeah, on a global portfolio, it's a
even
lot.
10%.
Yeah. You're getting 7%,
That seems, but
8%.
that seems a lot. That leaves a lot for you.
Yeah, but my job was not managing individual portfors. My
Okay.
job was managing
The bank.
the portfolio of portfolios.
That's right. Yeah.
And as you're getting higher, your tolerance decreases.
Yeah, yes and no, because strategically, I did, like buying a bank in Cambodia required at least some tolerance for risk.
What year is that? I don't remember.
That was 2015.
Okay, that was
So now
recent.
National
Okay.
Bank is the largest bank in Cambodia. We have 9,000
Wow,
employees.
interesting.
So it's a bit out of the common path. But
That's
so I think it is like anything else. Risk taking is a discipline.
Yeah.
You learn from your success. You learn even more from your mistakes, and the more you do it, the better you get at it.
Absolutely. Like Kendo.
Well, I equate it to injury, like injury prevention, right? Because I can't tell you how many guys I've seen blow their knees out or like train hard until like their body falls apart.
Yeah.
And that's why I always thought like there's got to be a better way to do it. There has to be a better way to manage your body, so your tolerance to risk, tolerance to injury in that case, and still be able to perform. The problem is that when you're on those super high competitive teams, they don't care. Like you just got to do what you're told to do in that practice. So and then it comes to like, well, what's the payout, right? I mean, am I putting my body at risk to have a police officer's pension like they have in Japan, or am I putting it to risk, to try to win the cup,
get harder.
Across the street.
Across the street. So, yeah, I mean, that's why I always had, even though like Team Canada was a big part of like my initial challenge, I've taken a step back in terms of like how I really look at more so like injury prevention and athlete health.
And this is somewhere where I find Kendo is different than other martial arts, because you see a lot of very elderly people practicing Kendo.
Yeah.
And that makes me very hopeful. That's the thing. That's why I started back, because I thought like, look, if Sensei Ono could do it in his 80s, why don't I start back and try to do it
Well,
in a
Sensei
way
Ono
that
was a particular case because he actually started during the internment camps.
Yeah.
And there's a really good book about that written by Hiro Okusa. He is a Japanese, but came not born in Canada, but he came after. Really, really, very, very great book. It details all the conditions of the internment camp there. And
but there's many elderly Japanese that do Kendo. Right?
Oh yeah, no, for sure. It's definitely a martial art that is pushed to be for longevity over like shorter career like judo or sumo or other martial arts.
And the interval training in Kendo, we're talking about biohacking, for example.
Yeah.
That to me, interval training, high intensity interval training is one of the ways that I found that was really helpful to prevent injury and to enhance your longevity, being able to continue longer.
That makes me happy because there are so many people I try to talk about this stuff and they're just getting so mad that like, how could you like challenge tradition and everything?
Yeah.
Well, it's because they can actually be healthier, is what I would say.
Yeah.
But then you would just get into all this arguments and stuff. So I've really tried to distance
Tradition
myself.
being traditional method
long
of training.
methodology, right? It comes down to that, right? And it's because it's not a sport; it's a ritual in some sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the main thing. So
Kendo until you drop.
well, that's kind of like ego death when you think about it. Because if you're pushing yourself just to like really
This is how I started.
destroy your ego completely, then I mean like it could be an interesting experience once in a while. But if you're doing that every single day, it's gonna have a real effect on your psyche in the long term
And your body.
And your body,
Well, yeah, that's the thing. So that's why. And this isn't just people here. Like this is people in Japan too. Like I sit down with a lot of hachirans and stuff, eighth degrees, and we talk about this.
Yeah.
And some of them get irritated. Some of them are like, no, what you're saying isn't far from the truth, and But I think the discussions are important, so that's why that's one of the reasons why I started this show here. So.
And this is why I like practicing with KIPPON. This is one of the reasons why I really enjoy, because first enjoy practicing with you, because for someone who's past his 20s and 30s,
yeah,
it becomes more and more important not to injure yourself. Like when you injure yourself, what gets back to you is not the original material, it's something different. And it needs a lot more collagen, and it needs a lot more maintenance, and throughout the age it's gonna get a bit more difficult. So practicing with KIPPON has allowed me to pace myself and act my age, which is good. This is not doesn't have to be a young person's sport.
Well, it's because there's a certain amount of matter you have, like collagen and things like that, and so if you keep breaking it down without stopping, then you're gonna run out eventually, right?
Yeah.
Like just if you keep breaking the piggy bank, eventually it's very hard to bounce back, right? If you've gone bust.
It's fun to see, where I'm practicing in a pod with people that are my age, and then next to me there's people that are 20, 25, 30 years younger, and they're practicing at a completely different pace. But we're in the same dojo doing the same exercise, just at a different pace.
But that's the thing, is that the victory is not about being the fastest, like you said, it's momentum, right? Using your opponent's momentum against them, that's one of the easiest ways to win. So speaking of momentum, I think we've pretty much covered most of what we've got to talk about here. But
thanks for the
Mr. Vachon, thank you so much for coming.
Merci de l'invitation.
Merci beaucoup. Yeah, Pierre. I'll see you at the dojo on Tuesday.
I will see you tomorrow.
So thanks to everyone else. Thanks to our wonderful staff for doing all the hard work behind the scenes. And we'll see you on the next episode of Judo vs. Kendo. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
You need to get it if he don't wanna love you the right way. He ain't gonna. It ain't where he's at, it's where he
cut it out first.
where he wanna be.
I said 5 in the morning. I wake up to 5 for my yearning. Fear in my mind is a warning. Praying to the one you're relying. I've been wandering all day. Try to be fine, but I can't be. The noise in my mind wouldn't leave me. Try to get by, but I'm burning. I'm behind. My mind, it runs. All these thoughts are troubling. Fighting to give up my pain. Fighting to be on my lane. My mind, running to the other side. When it's time to leave my life, then it tries to take me out. Tell you what I need. Right yet, I really need time. I really need just free mind now. I really need I need to free my mind now. I really need Jada. I really need to free mind now. I really need mine now. Yeah. This is the peace that you cannot buy. Send me a love that you cannot mix. One is the joy that you cannot waste, and the other one price that you cannot fix. This is the peace that you cannot buy. Finding a way where you cannot